It's time now for Media Watch. James Creedon is with us in the studio. It's good to see you, James.
Hi, Laura.
We're going to start with the French presidential campaign and the developments for François Fillon, of course, who yesterday appeared before a magistrate and was formally placed under investigation for corruption, for embezzlement, for the misuse of public funds.
Right.
He has desperately been trying to get his campaign back on track today, hasn't he?
That's
How's
right.
that been received by the media?
Well, I'm going to try to break down all of the different challenges that François Fillon is facing. 5 minutes is not enough, but let's see how we go. The head kind of going from headlines. I'm going to try to jump off into the various different scandals. So this was yesterday. He was charged with embezzlement. This is related to his wife, Penelope Fillon, who was paid something on just about under €1 million over many, many years for a job that she may not have done as a parliamentary assistant. Now, Le Monde today, which is the day when the charges were meant to have been issued, but it came a day early to avoid a media scrum. But it looks like the media scrums are going to continue. Yes. They are actually focusing now on other aspects that are troubling his campaign, notably, and it is still sort of related to his wife, Penelope Fillon. She also worked for a review, a magazine.
A literary review.
A literary review, and she did very, very little work for that literary review. This is the extent of the work she did. I think it comes to about 2 pages of notes that were published in that literary review, and she got paid something like €100,000 for that as well. There was also a loan from the gentleman who owns that particular review. His name is Marc Ladret de la Charrière. He's a very wealthy businessman in France, and
the allegation is he was buying influence, basically.
Exactly, and Le Monde is digging into that today. So even though he has been charged with the issue relating to his wife's job, Le Monde is now really digging into the network of power and influence around Marc Ladret. So that in itself is damaging for the impression created of his campaign. This is a cartoon talking about the fact that Nicolas Sarkozy and Alain Juppé were also in their time have been charged in various different cases. And the quote here is, well, if by 63 you haven't been charged, it's really a sign that you failed in life. That's actually a reference to a previous political story about somebody who said of Nicolas Sarkozy, if you don't have a Rolex by 60, it's a sign that you failed in life. It became a slogan that encapsulated the bling-bling image of the Sarkozy years.
And a very expensive suit on François Fillon, I see there.
That's right. And actually, speaking of the suit, this is another cartoon that makes reference to another scandal that emerged on Sunday, or a suspected scandal that he was paid by friends, or that friends of his, unnamed friends, bought him very, very expensive suits. Of course, this all suggests that influence might have been bought along with the suits, and that is a cartoon talking about that. And I'll just finish vis-a-vis the initial scandals plaguing him with this cartoon that appeared in yesterday's Le Monde, saying, if I'm elected, I'm going to just do away with Wednesday. Why Wednesday? Well, Wednesday is the day today when he was meant to be charged. It actually came yesterday. But it's also the day when the Canard Enchaîné weekly satirical paper comes out.
The paper that's had all these allegations.
All of these allegations. And even today, Laura, there was a sentence from Nicolas Sarkozy saying, how can I... Supporting this guy is an absolute burden. Allegedly, Nicolas Sarkozy said that of François Fillon.
Oh, right. And the stories just keep on coming, can't they? We've had the wife, we've had the family members, we've had the suits, and now we've got the daughter's wedding as well. It's alleged that the French taxpayer picked up the bill for a rather lavish bash.
So in a couple of sentences, essentially, she was employed when she was a law student. Her brother was as well, and paid about €45,000 for the work that she did. €33,000 of that made it back into her parents' bank account.
Right.
So she has explained this by saying, look, my parents didn't pay for my brother's weddings. Why should they pay for mine? This was a way of me repaying my parents for having paid my wedding, paid for the wedding costs. But look, it doesn't look good. And you get headlines like this or tweets like this. Did French taxpayers pay for Fillon's daughter's wedding? It's a question. It's not proven, but it doesn't look good, Laura. Again, it doesn't look good.
And the last go at François Fillon, if you will, you're not giving him a chance at all tonight, are you? You're not letting him off the hook at all. He gave a speech recently to really try, for countless times he's tried to do this, to get back on the issues, get that campaign going again, and it seems that speech had already been used by somebody else.
Well, namely himself. So it's not really it's not really plagiarism,
That's not
but
so
it still
bad.
doesn't look good. Let's take a listen to
Recycled
his
it.
speech at Trocadero, which was recycled from a previous speech in
Elle fait de
2007.
chacun d'entre nous le compagnon de l'autre. La République, elle n'est que mouvement. Si elle tombe, elle se relève. Tel Gavroche sur sa barricade. Elle se relève toujours, et c'est la faute à Voltaire.
And it really is the same gestures, the same speech. It was completely lifted from a previous speech he gave in 2007. But he was under serious pressure. That was the speech he gave at Trocadero in Paris, when really everybody thought he was going to stand down. And he said, I'm not standing down. I'm going to continue right to the end. So he had very little time, I think, to prepare that speech. But the comparisons, unfair, of course, with Melania Trump and the Michelle Obama speech. You cannot plagiarise yourself. You're just being repetitive. So it's not plagiarism.
Not plagiarism, no. Okay. All right, James, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks,
James Creed in there with Media Watch. Now it's time.